The city staff recommended a program to the city council, and the city council actually modified that program based on stakeholder input. And we have a program that the city council has essentially said, this is it.
I want today to be a very productive time for us. We have our architect team here, and obviously, you know, we pay them. So I really want this opportunity to be one that is productive in terms of the use of their time. It's very, very important to me that whatever design comes out of this process is a design that was born through community input. So any design that we have that we take out to the community, I want the architects and the staff to be able to say, this is a design that was created as a result of talking to the people who actually live in this community. The other thing I want to do is share with you, leading up to today, I got some emails from people saying, you know, can we move the pool to downtown? Why do we even have to have a pool? You know, why do we have to have so many bodies of water? I will tell you that there is a time and place for that discussion. We meet as a city council every Tuesday except for the last Tuesday of the month. If you would like to protest a decision that council has already made regarding the programmatic elements of the pool or the location of the pool, it would be appropriate for you to come to city council and talk at public comment. Like my good friend Mr. Goodhue is here. He can tell you about the process, and you're welcome to. I mean, he does. He comes all the time and he expresses his thoughts, and I think that's great. We would love to hear from you, but that's not really the best use of our architect's time today, because the council has already voted on the programmatic elements of the pool, and we have already voted on the site of the pool. If you would like to propose that the city council use $103 million from the general fund and build the pool in downtown, that's absolutely something you're welcome to pitch to the city council, but it's not really something that we're going to talk about today.
We're going to go to the very back, the woman sitting in the back row. All the way back? All the way back.
Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm a resident of Termino. I just wanted to say I love the view of the ocean that we now have because the old building is now down. If this new proposed building does get built, will it obstruct our view?
That's something that we're looking at. We know that the diving tower, which is going to be inside, has to be covered. And so we generally know that there's going to be a maximum height to the facility. What we don't know, because we haven't picked the materials and the design yet, is what the rest of the facility is looking like. So we have done some preliminary studies on where views are going to be enhanced, because we do believe that the new facility is going to enhance views compared to the old facility, and where the views may change because something is going to get taller because of the tower. So we don't have that answer yet, but based on today, where there's no obstruction, yeah, there's going to be a building there if we proceed and if the city council approves a project in that location.
To not obstruct the view.
To not obstruct the view at all, we would not have a building there. Yeah. We're going to go, Diego, the gentleman right there, and then we're going to work our way down this side.
Hi, everybody. Ed Shackroff, Peninsula resident. And just a question about the financing. A lot of the big stadiums, NFL stadiums, sell naming rights. Is that legitimate to do in this case?
Thank you for the question. I'm Tom Modica, by the way. I remember some of you, but just wanted to introduce myself again. So we are looking at a number of different options to fund the facility. Right now, what we have funded it with, or what we're planning to fund it with, is Thailand's dollars. In the city, we have looked in the past at some sponsorship opportunities. Our mayor and council in the past have not really embraced that approach. So right now it's not envisioned that would be a part of it. That being said, if there's a shortfall, you can always look at different financing opportunities, but right now the plan is to fund it out of Thailand's dollars. I do want to point out that sometimes the naming rights are done in one way. Sometimes those come with restrictions on if a corporation pays for the facility, it becomes part of it a private facility. And that would be a concern for the Coastal Commission and also for the city, in that we want this to be primarily and first and foremost a public facility that can also then host a number of different options.
But follow up, just a short answer. Is it legitimate and legal to have naming rights, like advertising, for this facility, for the Tideland funds and the city? It's just a quick, short answer to that.
If that's a legal question, I don't have the answer to that right now. We have not explored it, so I don't have an answer for that.
Yep. My name is Anna Christensen. I live at 259 Terminal, and like many of my neighbors, we are now visiting the beach. My neighbor across the street has picnicking in our park that now has an ocean view. This is the only park specifically in Belmont Heights. If the footprint is proposed, at least half, maybe more, of that park would be eliminated. Also, the nesting birds, which are supposedly protected, their sites would be eliminated. I just would like to say quickly that I don't feel it's particularly appropriate to limit discussion to building materials and the building itself without considering the impact on the site as a whole, even the layout of the building. The old pool did allow for this park. The old pool was equally community and competitive. This new plan turns it into a world-class competitive 8,000 audience, I heard. There's no parking for that. We see this as a really wonderful idea, but in the wrong place. I know, Susie, you said the City Council had approved the site, then you just now said if the City Council approves the site. I'm not sure what it is, but I think that both in the past and currently, and in the future, we will continue to have problems in protecting our shorebirds. And my only hope is that they would be considered, and maybe something proactive could be done, like starting to rebuild habitat in a different location, even planning or something like that. Do something so that if this giant, magnificent, world-class, behemoth monument gets built at the end of my street, the birds have already left. If we could possibly be forward-thinking about our wildlife, I'll miss my view, but I'm really more concerned about the wildlife.
Thank you for your comments. I want to address several of them before we get into questions. The giant and behemoth, I don't think we use those words. We use the words extraordinary and world-class. We do expect, as Tom said, this to be a community facility as much as a competition facility. The seating capacity is 1,250. We did show examples of facilities that had much larger seating capacity. Michael himself said that they were going to be much small. Our facility is going to be much smaller than that. So we are not building an indoor seating capacity of 8,000. It is 1,250. The City Council did approve a program, and I want to just kind of talk about that process, because while they did approve a program, they have not approved a project. And they can't approve a project, as many of you know, until we go through the environmental review process, through the CEQA process. And that has not yet officially kicked off, because we need a design. And in order to get a design, we need to have some community input, which brings us to today. Kind of all goes back to today. So you start with the design, you talk about the materials, and then you place that design on the site, and then you figure out what the impacts are. And we are required to look at the impacts, ma'am, on birds and wildlife, and that is part of our requirements under CEQA. All of that has to be analyzed. Once that is analyzed, and once a design is vetted through the EIR process, there's a whole formal approval process before we can stand there and say the project has been approved by the City Council. So we cannot stand up here, I cannot stand up here today and say the project has been approved. The programmatic elements of the project have clearly been approved by the City Council, and that was back in October for 1,250 indoor seats. There's a gentleman right here, Diego, on the aisle.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you everyone for their time and effort in putting this together. I think it's a great idea. I would love to see a pool where I'm swimming indoors and be able to see the beach. I don't know anywhere else in Southern California where that happens, where I'm actually swimming and seeing the beach.
Ma'am?
Good morning. I'm just very concerned about the site itself, and I think it's wonderful to have a world-class swimming center, but possibly on the parking lot where the temporary one is, just move it east of there or put it by the Queen Mary. That would be enhance the Queen Mary in their business, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about sand and wind and noise. And the site right now, I'd like to see, show of hands, how many people have actually looked at that little park that's down there now? Have you looked at it? Yes. Is it not beautiful?
Nobody's there.
Excuse me, we're not going to have this type of meeting.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right.
Let's stick to
Thank
your
you.
comments, ma'am.
Okay, fine. I'll go down to City Hall and talk to the council, but let me tell you something. I'm ashamed of you for saying that you're environmentalists when you're going to take that beautiful site away from people who live here in Long Beach.
Ma'am, we're not
you.
going to have a meeting where we insult folks and call people names, right? So we're here. Feel free to have a seat and stay for the rest of the meeting. So we do know that the location has changed, right? We took a facility down that had seismic issues. And as Susie said, we have looked at this location, and that is the location that has been selected. And the EIR process, as all you know, you have to have a location to analyze the impacts. That's how CEQA works. This is the location that has been selected for this project. The EIR does look at alternative locations, and we will look at alternative locations, including downtown. So just know that that alternative will be included in the downtown, but the design of the facility will be at this location for those purposes. So, sir, you've already had a chance. I'm going to do this gentleman next, and then I'm going to make my way back up to this woman in the gray and white stripe.
But I also want to remind everyone that we have a world-class architect who's here with us this morning, and the city is paying for this firm to help us design. So if we can talk about design, we can always do tons of public meetings. We'll do another one to talk about the nesting birds and some of the other concerns that have been raised. But if there are some ideas that folks have about, I'd love to see glass, I'd love to see stone, I'd love to see wood, I'd love to see a tall building, that's really where the best use of the architect would be today. But I commit to you right now, if you want to talk about all the other issues, let's have another meeting. Let's do it next week, let's do it this week, anytime you want. We will book a room and everyone come to the table and talk about those things. But we have a celebrity architect here, so I want to take advantage of this so that he walks away with some ideas.
So this gentleman, and then we're going to go to the woman. Nope, she says no.
This probably maybe isn't appropriate then, because I was at a city council meeting when they gave out a figure of roughly $100 million to build this facility. I'm not against building a facility, believe me. But they told us at that time that if we didn't start by a certain date, that it would increase by 18 million. Now, with all these designs that we're coming up with and the type of equipment that we're going to have, is that going to continue to jump up?
There is always an escalation cost.
Yeah.
And so I don't...
If we don't start in 2 years, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to
be?
ask Tom to address that question.
And let me just finish. The second one is, what is it going to cost to operate the facility? Because that was another thing that came up at the council meeting. It operates at a 1.6 million negative. That was the projection.
So in terms of the cost, you're correct. There is a cost escalation component to this. So a lot of this is you're trying to plan for the future, and we're planning right now the design of the building. We have set aside through the programmatic requirements about $103 million is what we expect the new facility to cost. What's included in that is also cost escalation, knowing that we're not building it today, that when we do build it, there will be cost escalation. At current rates, we're expecting about $4 million a year. Some of that has already been factored into that $103 million. And so exactly what the facility is going to cost, you don't know until you have a design building. It is entitled and you go out to bid. But right now, we're planning on that 103 with the cost escalation included. I do want to answer the question about maintenance. I don't have the number at the top of my head, but you're right. It was right around, currently today it costs about $1.5 million deficit to net. Pools don't pay for themselves, so when people come and pay their $3 to enter, that just helps to defray some of the cost, but it doesn't pay for it. We want it to be open to the public. We don't want a swim session to cost $25 per head, but we expect the cost will go up in this building, and we'll be planning that in. I believe it has, I'm going to estimate $1 to $1.5 million additional on top of that in order to fund the facility. But it is something we're very cognizant of.
So you do want to do, all right.
Avalon Hill, I'm a Peninsula resident. I'm a little confused. Have we decided that the pool will be built on the site at the beach?
So as I said, we have to select a site in order to design it around those site constraints.
Okay.
And so the site has been selected at this location. But the state law, CEQA, requires us to analyze alternative locations and see if any of the environmental impacts that may be caused by the facility in the original site could be mitigated or lessened if we moved it to a different site. So we do have to analyze alternative locations as part of our environmental review.
So it's, we're trying to concentrate on what the thing's going to look like. It's almost the cart before the horse. I mean, if you put it here, which I think is a great idea, if you put it downtown, it's going to look different than if you put it at the beach. So how do we talk about materials and configuration if we don't know where it's going to be?
We talk about materials and locations because this is the preferred site that is being, and that's a technical term, preferred site is going to be analyzed in the EIR, and you have to design a facility to a certain level in order to figure out impacts. So you have to know how tall the facility is going to be because it may block views. You have to know what the materials are going to be because you want to make sure that it's bird friendly and that birds aren't flying into completely transparent glass. Those are environmental impacts. You want to understand the material that you're going to use. Are you going to use plastic or are you going to use concrete because we are in a beach environment? That's an environmental impact. So we do have to look at those things. I'm sorry it seems circular or the cart before the horse, but you need to have a legitimate idea of what the project is going to be in order to appropriately analyze the potential impacts that that project may have. And that's part of the state requirements. So, Bob?
Hi, thanks. My name's Bob Murrin. I'm a Long Beach native and resident of 3rd District, and I'm an architect, and in fact, president of the local Long Beach chapter of the American Institute of Architects. And I just want to reiterate this gentleman's view of our architect that was selected, that he is, if you Google him, you will find some of his very iconic structures. And I really want to emphasize that whatever happens, whatever he does, that we would really recommend a very iconic structure, that it becomes something that becomes a landmark, that becomes one of those images of when you think of Long Beach, this building, this roof form that is unique to swim structures. You're going to have a great opportunity that most buildings don't get to have. So I really want to encourage to give him some latitude and let him let those creative juices flow. And then my one observation, not having really analyzed the plans, is to really, you've got the park in the back, maybe visualize the beach side of the property being more public, to really celebrate the beach. So if the edge of the building can have an indoor-outdoor relationship, might be one suggestion that you might look at. But thank you and welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. So, ma'am, right there.
Good morning. My name is Susan Miller, and yes, I have a couple of questions I'd like to direct towards the architect. Something new that I saw this morning, and I'd like to point out as sort of a difficulty. If we could have brought up the slide where it's showing the different places where the pool was, where the activity, you had the most activity right under the nesting trees. You are violating California state law by having the tents that are going to be under those trees. And most of the swim meets that have happened are during the nesting season, where the tents, the PA system, all of this noise has happened. So please, as the architects, you need to be conscientious of that activity, that those are known habitat trees for the protected birds. And Fish and Wildlife and California Coastal Commission are very observant of those things, and there's a long history. The Audubon Society has also documented this. And so please, when you're looking at that as your activity, that's going to be disturbance to those trees and the nesting. So I would thank you for looking at that.
Great. Thank you very much. That's an excellent point. We will talk about the relationship between activities and potentially sensitive species as well. So thank you for pointing that out.